Long before borders, nations, or written history, every human story began beneath the same African sun. The earliest members of our species lived in landscapes where sunlight could be both a source of life and a silent threat. Their skin carried a powerful shield called melanin. This dark pigment absorbed dangerous ultraviolet radiation before it could damage the body. For countless generations, darker skin was not merely an appearance, it was survival written across the surface of the human body. Yet today, humanity displays an extraordinary range of skin colors. Some people have skin as deep as polished ebony. Others have skin as pale as winter sand. Between those extremes lies nearly every shade the eye can imagine. How did one species develop such visible diversity? The answer begins with movement. Around tens of thousands of years ago, small groups of humans started leaving Africa. They crossed dry grasslands, narrow coastlines, cold mountains, and unfamiliar forests. Every new landscape presented a different challenge. Most importantly, sunlight changed. Near the equator, sunlight strikes the Earth with great intensity throughout the year. Farther north and south, the same rays arrive at a weaker angle. Clouds, winters, and clothing can reduce their power even more. The human body could not ignore this difference. Skin became part of a delicate biological negotiation. Too much ultraviolet radiation could damage cells and destroy essential nutrients. Too little ultraviolet radiation could prevent the body from producing enough vitamin D. Evolution had to balance both dangers. It did not plan a final design. It simply favored traits that helped people survive long enough to have children. In the bright environments of equatorial Africa, high levels of melanin offered crucial protection. Ultraviolet radiation can break down folate in the bloodstream. Folate is essential for healthy cell division. It is especially important during pregnancy and early development. A serious folate shortage can increase the risk of birth defects and reproductive problems. Individuals with more protective pigmentation were better shielded from this danger. Over many generations, natural selection preserved darker skin in regions with intense sunlight. This adaptation became deeply rooted in early human populations, but the story changed when people moved into places with weaker sunlight. The same protective melanin that helped near the equator could become a disadvantage farther north. Melanin blocks part of the ultraviolet radiation that enters the skin. That protection is useful when radiation is abundant. It becomes costly when ultraviolet light is scarce. The body needs a specific form of ultraviolet light to produce vitamin D. Vitamin D helps the body absorb calcium. It supports healthy bones, muscles, immunity, and many other systems. Without enough of it, bones may become weak or deformed. Children can develop rickets. Adults can suffer fractures and other serious complications. In regions with long winters, darkly pigmented skin required more sunlight to make the same amount of vitamin D. Ancient people could not take supplements from a bottle. Their survival depended on food, sunlight, and inherited biology. Some groups found enough vitamin D in fish, marine mammals, and other nutrient-rich foods. Others relied more heavily on sunlight. Where diets could not compensate, lighter skin offered an advantage. With less melanin blocking ultraviolet light, the body could produce vitamin D more efficiently. Individuals carrying genes for lighter pigmentation sometimes had healthier bones and greater reproductive success. Those genes became more common over thousands of years. Human skin did not suddenly turn light in a single generation. The change was gradual, uneven, and shaped by local conditions. A child might be born with slightly less pigment than previous generations. That small difference could matter during a dark winter. If it improved health or fertility, it could spread through descendants. Generation after generation, tiny biological advantages accumulated. Eventually, some populations became visibly lighter. This did not happen everywhere at the same time. It did not happen through one universal genetic pathway. Different populations sometimes developed similar skin tones through different genetic changes. Evolution repeatedly discovered more than one solution to the same environmental problem. The light skin of Northern Europeans and the light skin of some East Asian populations are not genetically identical. Several important pigmentation genes differ between these groups. Their similar appearance emerged partly through separate evolutionary histories. This is called convergent evolution. Similar environments can push unrelated populations towards similar traits. Humans adapting to weak ultraviolet radiation followed a comparable pattern. Skin color became a map of ancient sunlight. Yet that map is far more complicated than a simple line from dark to light. Migration constantly mixed populations. People traveled, traded, fought, formed families, and carried genes into new regions. Climate also shifted dramatically over time. Coastlines changed as sea levels rose and fell. A region that is cloudy today may once have received stronger sunlight. A population that lives inland today may descend from coastal ancestors. Every migration added another layer to the story. Diet created further complexity. Communities that consumed large amounts of vitamin D-rich seafood did not face the same pressure to evolve lighter skin. This may help explain why some northern populations retained relatively darker pigmentation for long periods. Culture also changed the relationship between skin and sunlight. The invention of tailored clothing protected people from cold, but covering the body reduced the skin exposed to ultraviolet light. Agriculture transformed human diets. In some places, farming reduced access to vitamin D-rich animal foods. These cultural changes altered evolutionary pressures without anyone understanding why. Biology and culture began shaping each other. Then came another surprising change. Ancient DNA revealed that some early Europeans were not as light-skinned as many people once assumed. Several hunter-gatherers living in Europe thousands of years ago likely had dark or intermediate skin. Some also carried genes associated with light-colored eyes. The combination would appear unusual to many modern observers, yet it shows that familiar traits did not always evolve together. Light eyes could become common before very light skin. Later migrations brought new pigmentation variants into Europe. Early farming populations arriving from Anatolia carried genes associated with lighter skin. Pastoralist groups from the Eurasian steppe added other genetic influences. European pigmentation emerged from repeated waves of movement and mixture. There was no single moment when an entire continent changed color. Asia followed its own intricate path. Different genes influenced lighter pigmentation in eastern populations. Local climates, diets, and migrations created regional patterns. South Asia became one of the most genetically and visually diverse areas on Earth. People living within relatively short distances developed a wide spectrum of skin tones. Altitude added another challenge. At high elevations, ultraviolet radiation becomes stronger. Cool temperatures can mislead us into assuming sunlight is weak. In reality, thinner air allows more ultraviolet radiation to reach the skin. Populations living on high plateaus faced pressures different from those in cloudy lowlands. The Americas added another chapter. The ancestors of indigenous Americans entered through northern routes and spread across two continents. They encountered Arctic darkness, tropical forests, deserts, grasslands, and towering mountains. Their skin tones reflect ancestry, migration, diet, and local adaptation. Later global migrations mixed these patterns even further. Today, a person may live under sunlight very different from that experienced by their recent ancestors. Modern transportation changed geography faster than evolution could respond. Someone whose ancestors lived near the equator may now grow up in a northern city. Someone with very light skin may live beneath intense tropical sunlight. Our bodies still carry adaptations shaped by ancient environments. This mismatch can create health risks. People with lightly pigmented skin are more vulnerable to ultraviolet damage in intense sunlight. Sunburn increases the risk of skin cancer. People with darker skin living in low ultraviolet regions may be more vulnerable to vitamin D deficiency. These are general tendencies, not fixed destinies. Diet, clothing, behavior, medical care, age, and individual genetics all matter. Skin color alone cannot reveal a person's complete biological history. Their effects interact with one another and with the environment. This is why skin color does not fit into a few clean biological categories. Human variation changes gradually across geography. Neighboring populations often resemble one another more than distant populations. Sharp racial boundaries were created by societies, not by evolution. Nature produced gradients, mixtures, and overlapping patterns. The visible differences that seem dramatic to our eyes involve only a tiny portion of human genetic variation. Two people with different skin colors may be more genetically similar than two people placed in the same racial category. Appearance can be powerful socially while remaining biologically incomplete. For most of history, people did not know about melanin, folate, ultraviolet radiation, or vitamin D. They saw only the surface. Cultures invented stories to explain visible differences. Others turned difference into hierarchy. In recent centuries, false racial theories attempted to present prejudice as science. They claimed skin color reflected intelligence, morality, or human worth. Modern genetics has demolished those claims. Skin pigmentation mainly reflects adaptation, ancestry, and population history. It does not rank human beings. Dark skin is not primitive. Light skin is not advanced. Both are specialized responses to different environmental pressures. Every shade represents a compromise between protection and production. The body must protect folate and cellular tissue. It must also allow enough ultraviolet light to support vitamin D synthesis. There is no universally perfect skin color. The best balance depends on environment, lifestyle, and diet. That balance can change when people move. It can change when cultures invent new clothing. It can change when food systems transform. Evolution is not a ladder leading toward one ideal human form. It is a branching process shaped by local challenges. The color of human skin is one of its most visible examples. Look closely, and skin becomes more than a surface. It becomes a record of ancient journeys. It remembers blazing equatorial sunlight. It remembers dim northern winters. It remembers coastlines filled with vitamin-rich food. It remembers migrations across mountains, deserts, and frozen plains. It carries traces of strangers who met and became families. It reveals how culture altered biology and how biology influenced culture. Most importantly, it tells a shared story. Every living human belongs to the same young species. All modern populations descend from ancestors who were connected through repeated movement and interbreeding. No population remained isolated forever. No skin tone belongs to a separate branch of humanity. The differences appeared recently compared with the full history of our species. Beneath the pigment, the same organs perform the same work. The same blood transports oxygen. The same bones depend on calcium. The same cells can be damaged by ultraviolet radiation. The same sunlight that threatens us also helps sustain us. Human skin evolved because survival required flexibility. Our ancestors did not conquer the world by remaining unchanged. They survived because bodies, behaviors, and cultures adjusted to new realities. Skin color is one chapter in that larger triumph. It is evidence of vulnerability. It is also evidence of resilience. The next time you notice the range of human skin tones, imagine the environments behind them. Picture families moving beneath unfamiliar skies. Picture children surviving winters their distant ancestors never experienced. Picture generations shaped by light they could neither see nor understand. Their bodies quietly solved problems that had no names. The solutions were passed forward through DNA. Those ancient solutions are still visible on faces around the world. They do not divide humanity into separate kinds. They connect us to the landscapes our ancestors once called home. The real reason humans have different skin colors is not a story of separation. It is a story of adaptation. It is a story of migration. It is a story of sunlight. And ultimately, it is the story of one human family learning how to survive almost everywhere on Earth.